Welcome to episode 44 of Comic Book Nation, the official podcast of Comicbook.com. I am your host, the unmutable Kofi Outlaw, and with me today is my co-host, Matthew Aguilar.
What up?
And from his world-spanning, scoop-breaking ventures out in the field, we brought back your all-day cowboy, one of the original trinity of Comic Book Nation. Brandon Davis is back here on the couch.
I also love Comic Book Nation.
I love that as well.
Did I say Chronic Book
He
Nation?
totally did.
Oh,
But hey,
man.
I mean, listen, it's going to be a
slip?
we're taking this show to new heights.
That's
Oh,
the second
man.
show in a row that I've let something sit.
Wow.
And the other host brought it up.
Announcing our new spin-off podcast
That's
for late
right.
night.
Available now in Denver.
In Denver, Washington State,
Portland.
and coming soon to New York. But in all seriousness, this is Comic Book Nation. And if you want to combine it with your own spin-off podcast, I'm sure that helps our numbers. But today we're going to be talking about a couple of exciting things, and weirdly enough, well, we changed some things up, but I had like an all Spider-Man tied podcast. Everything I had tied back to Spider-Man in
Just
some kind
all
of way.
went to crud.
Yes, well, it did go to crap because we had a big announcement before we just walked in here, which is that Superman, Henry Cavill, is getting into another big geek genre role. He's playing Sherlock Holmes. So let's just start there. Why not? Let's just throw out the plan and just get wild. I mean, this is episode 44. So
Yeah, 44, man.
Why
Cannot
not?
believe we made it that far.
Right?
Neither can I, and we're still not canceled. It's great.
Or sued.
But where we at? Or sued, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that is another one.
Yeah.
But yes, Henry Cavill is playing Sherlock Holmes in an upcoming adaptation of the Enola Holmes series. If you're not familiar with this book series, it is by Nancy Springer, and Enola Holmes is Sherlock Holmes' younger sister. And to play Enola Holmes in the series, we're also getting another big casting, Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things fame and Godzilla 2 infamy now, is going to be playing Enola Holmes. So this is another kind of iteration of the Sherlock Holmes brand that we're going to be getting. We just had this breaking news, so I didn't have my homework. Is this a TV show or like a movie? I guess those are basic questions that I should probably answer as the host.
I don't actually know. I didn't see that part of it. I mean, I am excited for this. Mostly because I think Cavill's been. Can we address? Is it Cavill or Cavill? Because I've heard this like multiple ways in
I
the
say
office.
Cavill.
Is
I
it
don't
Cavill?
know.
All right.
Is it Zendaya?
Oh,
or
it's
Zendaya?
legendary, so I'm assuming it's a movie.
Okay.
Enola Holmes.
But I'm very excited about this because, I mean, one, we're going to get him as Geralt in The Witcher. Very excited for
that's
that.
cool.
And now we're going to get him as Sherlock Holmes. I'm a Sherlock Holmes, it's kind of like Robin Hood. Like, I'll go see that regardless of what it actually ends up being, and I just hope for the best. This actually sounds like it might be fun.
Yeah. And I love having, I want to be Henry Cavill's agent who, is just like, look, these geeks just keep dropping money. Here's how we're going to get this next money. Superman money.
Yeah, but my problem,
Spy,
only
they're not
problem
giving you
with
James
this,
Bond? Fine, we got the Man from U.N.C.L.E. money. Now we're getting Witcher
Oh, yeah, I
money.
forgot he did that.
my only problem with this, and I'm sure it'll be great, is that Henry Cavill continues to do everything except play Superman.
Well, I know. That's not on him,
that's
though.
not his
That's
fault.
Warner
I
Brothers.
know. Well, it's frustrating.
It is
It's
frustrating.
very
I get
frustrating.
I'm not mad at Henry Cavill for it.
Yeah.
I'm just mad in general.
You're gonna get
Dude's
me
gotta do
Charlie.
something.
You're about to get me Charlie levels of triggered right now about this. Because, I feel some kind of way because I'm a Man of Steel defender. I liked Henry Cavill as Superman. And the fact that he's just been kind of screwed out of that career, it really does boil my blood. Even if you didn't like Man of Steel 2. I don't think there were very many people who ever argued that you couldn't take Henry Cavill, put him in the hands of another director for Man of Steel 2, and give us a good Superman movie. So
Let Chris McQuarrie make a Man of Steel 2. Let Matthew Vaughn make Man of Steel 2.
Matthew Vaughn, I was sold as soon as I
But that's
started
not
hearing
happening.
But it's not happening.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Sherlock Holmes.
So if I have
So
to
if I get Matthew Vaughn on a Sherlock Holmes movie with Henry Cavill, that'd be freaking awesome.
I do like that they're taking this way, though, because there is the looming, Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes sequel.
And on top of that, Sherlock
Or
is still
Christopher
popping.
McQuarrie.
And on top of that, Elementary
Yeah.
became a very successful show.
I love all those things because
Yeah,
they're all
so
a
do
little
I.
different. Yeah, they're all a
Yeah,
little.
so it's somehow we're not overloading on Sherlock Holmes, and this is another great way to get in the franchise, like you said. And Millie Bobby Brown is a star, so I know she will nail this. And the thing about Henry Cavill that's so good is he's a great action star. I mean, the man looks like he stepped off a superhero mold when he's been hitting the gym
He's
and
awesome
doing
in
that.
Mission Impossible. Man.
Great.
And the
He's
jawline.
great in Man from U.N.C.L.E. too. Say what you
Yeah,
want about
exactly,
the movie.
and that's the point.
He's great.
In Man from U.N.C.L.E., he's also so charmingly
Yep.
British when he wants to be.
Yep.
And that's what he was in Man from U.N.C.L.E. So to see him play Sherlock Holmes, I mean, he has that charm too. So like, it's
I'm
gonna be
interested
great.
who Watson's gonna be.
Yeah, as always, we want to know more.
John C. Riley.
And what's his name? Oh, God.
I was like, is it really?
I would like to see who, if they include what's his kind of love interest, his name, Irene or whatever her name is, the thief that he loves. Like if she was in there.
The one who Amy McAdams played.
Yeah, Rachel McAdams played.
Rachel,
yeah,
sorry. Yeah, sorry. My
like
bad.
Eileen Adler or whatever her name is. I forget her name, but if.
I think you had it.
Maybe I just trust nothing because then I listen back to the podcast and I have 50 people coming for me.
Zelda 2. What?
Yeah, Zelda 2, right. So, yeah, all this sounds interesting. So, I mean, that's a good start. And like you said, a good way back into the Sherlock Holmes franchise. So, yeah, looking forward to that. And congratulations, Henry Cavill, on another casting. Please let this man play Superman sometime again, sooner before later, before I'm geriatric. Thank you.
We're getting old.
Moving on. Speaking of geriatric, we got a new trailer for Charlie's Angels today. Matt, the level of excitement in
I'm
your
so
face
pumped.
right now,
I'm so pumped.
and the fact that I actually probably need to re-watch this trailer again is why I'm gonna let you go first and kind of talk about how you felt about this.
Oh well, I mean, I've ever since they announced the cast, I've been very I've anticipated this mostly because also too Elizabeth Banks. This is her directorial debut, but she has a level like of projects that she's involved in. You're giving me a very quizzical.
Is it her first movie?
I thought it was her director debut. Is it not?
You continue. I'll look that up.
Okay, look that up for me.
I thought she did like Pitch Perfect.
Is she direct those,
I'm not
or
sure.
was she an executive producer?
I'll look.
Okay,
This is our most prepared show.
it really is, boy.
really is.
Anyway, she is
We're
directing.
Comicbook.com. Who's going to be the Elizabeth Banks expert at Comicbook.com?
I mean, it would
I'm a
probably
big fan,
it would
but-
probably be me because she was Rita Repulsa in Power Rangers.
That's fair.
But
Yeah,
no,
she directed Pitch
she
Perfect
did.
2
She directed them. Okay.
and Movie 43.
So this is not her directorial debut.
No, this is her biggest film yet.
This is yes.
Definitely her
fair to
biggest
say.
film. Yeah. Well,
But no, I mean, she even in the movies though that she just acts in, she has a level of comedy of
she's
timing.
hilarious.
Yeah, she's great. So the fact that Charlie's Angel is in itself a action comedy, the past two movies I enjoyed, but were very much the level of comedic.
Mick
The
G.
writing, it's
Mick G, yeah.
This when they announced her, I trusted that she would know how to implement that well, and the trailer's great at that. Like it has some really fun action moments, unconventional ones, especially with Kristen Stewart, who I think will surprise a lot of people. It's already surprised a lot of people from the trailer. And then I am a huge Naomi Scott fan. I think she's going to kill it, especially in a more comedic role because the role she's taken so far have been kind of very confident, very assertive characters.
Did you like her in Aladdin?
Oh yeah, I loved her. She's
great.
awesome. Yeah, but that role too, right? That
Yeah,
role,
she's
Kimberly.
great.
She's very much like assertive, confident. This she's playing completely against type, but I think she's going to be great. Like it was fun. Like I really just had a smile on my face.
Yeah, it was kind of like Mission Impossible-y, Man from Uncle E, like in a good way, kind of like a modern spy thing, but
Stylish, but not over stylized.
yeah, and it had the thing that I like is like the charm of like Melissa McBride McCarthy.
We
I'm
are
falling
banging. We are
apart.
knocking it out of the park
I'm
today.
falling apart. I'm never gonna make it to
Is
episode.
Carol a Charlie's Angel now?
We are killing it today.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
It's
She
all-
could be, by the way. Yeah, she could be a kick-ass Charlie's Angel villain.
She
but,
would beat all of them up.
That's what I'm saying. She'd be an awesome villain.
Yeah.
But Melissa McCarthy, like Spy, like the movie Spy, like
Great
has
film.
this kind of charm, which was a great rated R kind of like spy
Yeah.
comedy. So this was unexpectedly good and really kind of fires me up for a new Charlie's Angels take. And I liked the first Charlie's Angels when we come up. Full Throttle was one of the worst things I wanted to
not
gouge
great.
my eyes out at.
About a year ago, did you think you'd be saying, I'm fired up for a new Charlie's Angels take?
No, but that's why I love cinema. You never
Yeah.
know. The things you think you're going to be fired up for are crushing, soul-scarring disappointments, and the things you never saw coming turn out to be great.
Yeah.
And I love the take on Bosley as far as like Bosley being a rank and not a person, so they can implement Patrick Stewart as
Yeah.
a Bosley. Like, Hansu is a Bosley. It's
Yeah.
like that's so cool because you have all these different personalities and not just one
Yeah,
Bill
there's-
Murray-ish character.
There's
playing
smart
off.
updates to this Charlie's Angel concept and like some kick-ass action, and the three girls look really good together. Kristen Stewart looks like she's going to walk off with this in some ways, being a real scene stealer. So that'll be good. Get her that Catwoman role in the Batman.
Hey man,
Just throw that grenade in the room. And
Team
then
Team
say,
Hutchins. Team
Let's keep it moving. Next one is just a PSA.
Just putting that out there.
This next one is just a PSA real quick. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is now on Netflix. We talked about that movie when it came out. I can't say enough good stuff about it. Spider-Man Far From Home, we will be reviewing that. I probably should have mentioned that at the top of the show. We will be reviewing spoiler-free Spider-Man Far From Home, but you probably knew because you clicked on it and it's the title of this episode. So here we are.
Are we positive that Into the Spider-Verse is out? I just want to make sure with our run so far. I want to double check and make sure we got that right.
I mean, our article is titled "Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is now on Netflix." I don't think I mean, how much can we clickbait ourselves? Like, I don't know.
We haven't been on the ball yet.
It's
just
out.
Making sure.
It's
All right,
out.
good deal.
So it's good to know if you're hyped for Spider-Man Far From Home, which we will be spoiler-free reviewing in a minute, but you can't wait and you need something and you missed. And if you did not see Spider-Verse, and I know the worldwide total, so I know not everybody listening saw that movie.
For real.
Check it out and be willing to say, like, man, I should have caught this in theaters. Because while it's going to be great and I'm going to be at home with my kids watching it on Netflix, I mean, this definitely was one to catch in the theaters in 3D. It was really like a comic book come to life. And one of the best Spider-Man stories, hand down, across any medium I've seen ever told. So, like, yeah. Be sure to check out Spider-Verse. What are you guys' impressions now that we've had some months in separation from this movie?
Spider-Verse?
Yeah.
It didn't make enough money.
No.
Like, I mean, for as good and well received as that movie
winning
was,
Oscars, yeah.
It didn't make enough money. I don't know why either. Like, why do you think it didn't perform?
I think there was a lot of saturation in the winter and fall seasons with a lot of big movies coming out. And I think this one was the dark horse that people, like, I didn't think this was going to be a good movie until I started seeing film Twitter reactions to people saying they cried and it was the best and it deserves Oscars. And I was like, what? And I went out and saw it and I was like, okay, like, yeah. But it was a dark horse. Like,
I also think it's hard to sell animated comic book movies.
Yeah.
It's look at how many great animated DC movies there are. They don't fly off the shelves.
Yeah.
You know. So I think that's a factor.
Yeah. And like,
but it's a great film.
And this one was so unique. Like, this was different. Like, you actually had to commit. Like, this wasn't... We're so ingrained to see, like, Marvel and DC movies and stuff. Like, yeah, like BD's saying, this was an animated movie. It was done in this really kind of crazy style and, like, a Spider-Man that people don't necessarily know in the mainstream. I mean, this is Miles Morales' attempt to break into the mainstream.
It's just crazy because they did everything right as far as, like, that art style was so bold and different from everything else. Like, I can't think of something they did wrong.
But that's
like,
the price of trailblazing.
Yeah.
Like, trailblazers are rarely rewarded as highly as everybody else who copies them thereafter. Like,
That's true.
Now that people saw Spider-Verse and saw how you can literally make a comic book come to life and do that, you know, the next few people will probably make a lot more money with it.
And then they can also reference, oh, hey, remember, everyone missed out on this.
Yeah.
Go see ours because you...
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's just the way it happens. I mean, it's so hard to describe. Like, until I sat down, people were telling me about it, but until I sat down and actually saw it, like, I couldn't understand what they were trying to describe fully. Not in full measure. Like, when you actually experience it, it's so cool. But, yeah. So now you have the chance.
It was
on
successful
Netflix.
enough that we're getting a
sequel and spinoff. Oh, Spider-Ham's a star. I mean, he's around my house right now, and my kids love Spider-Ham. So
I just hope the
Spider-Women
third
coming.
Spider-Man movie is Spider-Man bringing home the bacon, feet, Spider-Ham. Get it?
I will.
Gosh.
Yes, I do. And one, I will go see that in a heartbeat. It's Spider-Ham. You know, like,
yeah, weren't you the guy who laughed about Chewie eating porgs, though?
I wish Chewie would have
That was really funny.
eaten more porks. I wish the lightsaber ignited and went straight through the pork.
All right, so check out Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse on Netflix if you haven't experienced it. Another PSA we have is from Matt, who's going to be taking us over to WWE for some important announcement.
Yeah, WWE floored everybody today by announcing that they're going to have Paul Heyman, who many will know from being the advocate of Brock Lesnar on current TV, but also one of the masterminds behind ECW, a classic imprint of wrestling. And then also Eric Bischoff are going to be essentially executives for the two brands. So Paul Heyman is going to be an executive on Monday Night Raw, and Bischoff, who I don't know if you know who Eric Bischoff is, but essentially like one of the masterminds behind when WCW rose to power.
Yeah, that's why I know the name.
WWE.
That's why I know the name.
And you know, a lot of all the Monday Night War stuff and Nitro and bringing over Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, all that stuff is, I'm not saying it like he's the sole reason. I'm just saying he's a big part of it. And then he's also been part of WWE in the past for small stints, and all of those have been entertaining. So he will be the executive for SmackDown Live. And they haven't like announced when that's going to kick in. But, WWE's been struggling as far as certain storylines and keeping the hype for those shows and wasting some of their amazing talent. So people are very hopeful that these two, because they know the business, they know how to book themselves. They've done it already in the past and shown that if they get a hold of these, and if Vince McMahon actually lets them, which is also a big
if.
That's
yes.
Mr. Micromanager.
Yeah, lets them actually make, substantial decisions and kind of run with some things. And also, and Jim pointed this out earlier, and this is also a good point, if Bischoff avoids just bringing in a bunch of old stars, because ironically, that's what WWE's doing now, and that's not necessarily working. So if he can hold on that, not just go get Hogan or Nash or whatever and bring them in to do little poppy stuff, this could be really cool. So I'm very excited for this. This is a big deal.
All right. So that's what's going on in the WWE corner. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
All right. So stay tuned, because when we come back, we are going to give you guys a spoiler-free early review of Spider-Man Far From Home. So be sure to check that out. All right. That was an extra long pause. I think I just fell asleep there for a second. Spider-Man Far From Home. So this movie picks up after the events of Avengers Endgame. It is our first look at the MCU after all of those big changes. And it is also the sequel to Homecoming in a lot of ways, and takes a lot of those storylines that kind of began in that movie and continues them through this. We're going to start with Mr. Brandon Davis, who reviewed the film for us on Comicbook.com, and tell us your impression, BD.
Good movie.
Awesome.
That's it.
It's really, really good, man. I mean, I just think it gets better as it goes.
I've seen it now twice.
I've seen it twice now. I'm a huge Homecoming fan, which I know is I've learned is less common than I thought.
Yeah, I was really confused. I thought you were not, but
No,
it turns out Matt's the secret hater.
I'm not a secret hater.
And I'm the other big Homecoming fan in here.
I am a huge Homecoming fan. I think Homecoming was great. I think Homecoming did a really good job of showing Peter trying to balance the choice of being a hero or being a teenager, because being both is basically impossible. So this movie, he's already, as Samuel L. Jackson improvised, went to space, and he's fought with the Avengers, and he's been to Titan, he's done all these things. So it's harder to be a teenager. He really is Spider-Man now, but it does a good job of raising the stakes, making it bigger by traveling the world, balancing characters as individuals, not just as superheroes, and bringing in that decision of trying to be a teenager, but now it's not even a choice anymore. He's obligated to be a superhero, but he still is flirting with that choice because he wants to be with his friends. He wants to go on a field trip, and it's a lot of fun. These movies kind of take you back to high school in a way. I mean, not that we were swinging from buildings and being superheroes,
You weren't.
but just in the choices that you were making socially, you know what I mean? And trying to find yourself and trying to find your friends and all that. Both of these movies have done that, and they've done it in ways that are fresh. None of it felt repetitive to me. And I mean, also, I'm a huge Iron Man fan. So if you're a purist and you want Spider-Man's story to be what it is from the comics, you're going to get deviations. That Tony Stark is basically Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
Yes, he's carrying a BFP suitcase. Uncle Ben died somewhere along the way. We don't see it. We're getting that treatment from Tony Stark. And I'm fine with that. Like, I think it works. It's a remix of the story. I don't want the same story every time.
And it was also a major part of the 2000s Marvel comics. Like, Tony's mentorship of Peter was like a big deal in those.
Yeah, and it works really, really well. And, I mean, at times, it does feel similar to Iron Man movies. But it does it, I think, in a self-aware way that's not too heavy-handed. That doesn't
why is that? Like, why does it feel similar? Is it because Happy's in it? Is it because that?
Because of, they outright bring in,
yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything, but they outright bring in elements of Iron Man movies.
Okay.
Both within universe and for the moviegoer
Okay.
that just make it feel like an Iron Man movie.
And I
You'll
mean-
know what I mean when you see the movie.
And there's an intention behind it because
Yeah.
the story is about Peter, whether Peter can measure up to being Iron Man. And like there's a lot of that kind of forces the story to kind of play. There are elements of the universe that come into play, but there's elements of just Peter's story of trying to live up to Tony Stark and the fact that Tony Stark has kind of given him this responsibility in more ways that you learn throughout the film that run deeper for Peter that he kind of has to live up to. And like Brandon said, is like his Uncle Ben almost. And so it does. There are purposeful homages to Iron Man throughout.
Okay.
Not just a character, but to the movies throughout this film.
So it's organic to the.
Yeah, it all fits. I think it
Yeah.
all fits.
Yeah, no,
I don't
it all
think
fits.
It ever takes it away from being a
It's
Spider-Man
very
movie.
purposeful.
It's a
like,
Spider-Man movie influenced by the previous events of the MCU. Very heavily influenced, but I don't think it was more than other movies we've seen. I mean, the way Iron Man 3 was influenced by the Avengers, but it was still an Iron Man movie. I think that's a fair
Yeah.
comparison. So, but all that said about him being an individual, not being a superhero, and all these other characters, Zendaya's great, Jacob Batalon's great, Tony Revolori's great. I think the movie is even more fun, and I love those parts a lot. But I think I even like the movie more when he is Spider-Man. When Spider-Man's on the screen, I feel like it's full speed and it's great. And Jake Gyllenhaal comes in as Mysterio, instantly one of my favorite MCU characters. He is great. Jake Gyllenhaal plays this role. There is one moment where it's so complex, and his take on this character is just fully shown off, and it's great. It just shows you what Jake Gyllenhaal can do, and he is great in the role. The costume looks amazing. The effects are great with Mysterio, and I think that I want to see more of him. I want to bring him back to the MCU, and I don't know if they're going to, but I hope they will.
Yeah.
And it's just a complete story. Start to finish, it's great. And then when it's done, you're like, wow, that movie was great. And then it gets better again, because the post-credit scenes, I think, are the two best post-credit scenes in the MCU's history.
Wow.
Yeah, the two. Okay, yeah. Trying to build on that and avoid spoilers at the same time is a Spider-Man swing in and of itself. But yeah, I agree with a lot of what BD said. Far From Home, I like how we are used to Marvel sequels having it's like a legacy that almost every Marvel Cinematic Universe sequel, especially sequels to like really good first standalone films, has to then do this thing of taking a character and putting them into the larger MCU in a way. And that can get really sloppy and really tricky. You can either have real bad kind of mess ups like Iron Man 2 in a way, or you can have real big successes like Winter Soldier, who kind of opened the door to a lot for Captain America and completely changed that franchise around from the first film. And so I think Far From Home does a pretty good job of doing that. I mean, there are so many demands from so many other Marvel movies. I mean, just the first act of this movie is literally just kind of clean up and bring you up to speed from Avengers Endgame and explain away, like, almost hilariously hit all the points that, like, people have been asking.
Which I've heard is some people approach as a negative. Did it come forced to you or no?
I mean, it was necessary because you have to reestablish. I mean, this film is part of a shared universe, and that comes with obligations.
Yeah.
If after something like Endgame, which gets the freedom to end itself, like, boom, with so many unanswered questions, Far From Home has to do the work of picking up and basically being like, last time on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then being like, and here's the thing, and it does it in a funny, succinct way of kind of doing it. They don't just, it's not like, oh my God, exposition, like I'm going to die.
It's very similar to what Homecoming did about Civil War.
Yeah.
It's very similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah, Homecoming handled
because
Civil War
because
really well.
it never, like BD said, John Watts never gets away from grounding this into a high school experience. So we get kind of caught up on the MCU from the perspective of these Midtown Science students, which is hilarious because of the way they frame it and do it. It shows you all these major events and explains a lot of things, but it's from these teenagers' perspective, and it's really funny. So that's the way they get around that. But that's the obligations of the first act before you really kind of get out of the end of the first act and into the story in the second act. But like
It moves fast.
And it moves fast.
The first act moves fast. A lot happens in the first act, and then they're on a trip to Europe before you know it.
Yeah, and
It's over 2 hours long, and it goes fast.
And ironically, there's so much that there was in there in that first part that they cut out a whole bunch that they're actually making into a short film called Peter's To-Do List, which we've confirmed will be included on the Far From Home Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Because there's scenes you saw in the trailers, like even big action scenes that aren't in the film, that are going to be kind of condensed into this story of how hectic it was for Peter Parker to get the hell out of New York and take a vacation. And this kind of conveys all that, but we got to get moving. So like it does kind of just shave off some of the prep and get you, because we got to fill in all the Endgame stuff and get where Peter is and then get to Europe.
And I really have a feeling that going forward, I mean, this is the end of Phase 3, but it's the first post-Endgame movie, that this will be probably by far the smallest. And it's a global movie, but I think it'll be the smallest MCU movie. Not because there are teases in this film for what's next, which you'll see, but also, I mean, even Black Widow, I think from now on, everything is just going to be huge. I don't think we'll see like Iron Man movies or you know, where it's just isolated to one location. I don't think we can do that anymore.
Everything has to be an event for one reason or another.
Yeah, I really do think so.
Because of whether it's a cultural event or a significant giant MCU event or something
Black Panther
like
is
event.
probably the one character who could get away with it at this point, assuming that it's a post-Endgame setting, because Wakanda is its own.
Yeah, but still, it has to be some kind of event.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they have to do something to pump it up, like with steroids now. Like, I mean, that's just where we're.
It's hard to talk about this and make my points without spoiling anything.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if I buy that. I don't know if I think at some point in Phase 4, they will probably, just because they're going to be most likely be building up some very obscure characters, I think they would kind of need to ground it in something smaller. I mean, I know some of the ramifications from this already.
But we're not just talking about the film itself, but I'm talking about like the framing and marketing. Like, even if you just do Eternals, like Eternals is going to be an event with the amount of big names that they're going to throw at you.
Eternals is a very big concept.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
But you're saying you're not going to get another Ant-Man and a Wasp?
It'll be the first Marvel movie with a majority Asian cast, Asian director, and that'll be.
So you're saying from a cultural perspective?
I said any way they can spin it. It has to be an event. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I think there will still be some smaller.
Like nobody just said, "Hey, Captain Marvel's just a story that's coming out." Like Captain Marvel was the
but
first
Ant-Man and the Wasp
female
was like that. The first Ant-Man was like that. Like those, there are smaller movies that you're just introducing.
I'm saying I don't think we'll see just smaller movies coming.
He's saying those are going to come to an end.
But I think they will. I
more
think
contained focuses.
I think you still will, because some characters kind of need that. They can't be introduced into a larger scale thing without getting lost. And if they're going to keep introducing,
I think characters like Namor or Nova or Shang-Chi will require good bits of focus and
like Shang-Chi.
But I think they're going to be big. I think they're going to find ways to make them big.
I mean, I'm in agreement with BD on this one. But just to finish up what I say about Far From Home, the one thing I have about Far From Home is while BD liked the bigger scale and the world hopping, the kind of James Bondiness of it, like I actually prefer Homecoming and the smaller, intimate neighborhood Spider-Man story because I really do attach to the more grounded high school kid in the neighborhood just trying to live life and balance this other identity thing about Spider-Man is what always spoke to me. And you don't lose that here. It just it doesn't feel like it's as much of the heart and focus of it on the bigger scale of the world traveling.
Homecoming gave me one of my favorite MCU scenes, and that's the scene with Vulture and Peter in the car on the way to Homecoming. And the tension in that scene and the music and the traffic light changing on his face and just everything about that scene, from how it was written to how it was acted to how it was shot to how it was composed, I thought was one of the best MCU scenes.
Yeah.
And that scene itself propelled Homecoming to an even better movie. I don't think Far From Home had that moment.
No.
I didn't have a scene like that, but as a whole, I have to go with Far From Home.
And it's hard to talk about all the strengths of it without spoiling, but rest assured, this movie it goes in the opposite direction for spectacle, and some of the spectacle is just like, just really kind of mind-blowingly awesome.
It does, and it never takes you away from the story, though.
No.
That's why it works for me, because there are movies that will be just spectacle. You have Godzilla, King of the Monsters comes out, it's all spectacle, and the substance doesn't work. The human stuff doesn't work, nobody really cares. And I liked Godzilla, but that's a 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5 movie, maybe 4 out of 5.
And that's kind of weirdly I think there is that moment, like the car scene in this film, which is kind of when we're heading into the third act, that uses the visual spectacle a lot. But like you said, I think why it maybe doesn't feel like the car scene is that was just grounded. That was just acting. That was a power of Tom Holland and, more importantly, Michael Keaton kind of shining through. I think there is a great moment like that is this moment of, doubt with Peter and stuff like that. But there's just so much visual spectacle that around, especially the first time, you're just trying to take this all in, like, holy crap.
I will say the second time I watched it, man, it was, I had more fun watching it the second time because I wasn't sitting there. There is a huge unpredictable nature to this film. Even as a comic book fan, you go in and you think you know what's going to happen, but they find ways to surprise even the big comic book fans who have expectations for certain characters. But watching it a second time, picking up on the Easter eggs, especially knowing the ending and knowing the post-credit scenes, picking up on the Easter eggs was one thing, but just being able to sit back and watch and enjoy the acting and the performances and the jokes and the action I liked it better the second time.
Yeah. And I could very well vouch for that. Once the pressure's off, because there are some really mysteries and things and surprises to wrap your head around, like getting just down into to appreciate the craftsmanship of it and how they kind of adapt and realize certain things from the comics it's worth appreciating.
So we've gushed. Do you have any criticisms you can think of?
Just like I said, I think the setting of jumping from world to world, it's kind of the same thing. I forget, what movie were we just talking about where they did the same thing, and I said it should have been Men in Black. Yeah. It was Men in Black International, and it's the same kind of thing. It's like, I think Homecoming got away a little bit more because it was still a very formulaic Marvel movie, but it got away with kind of like the intimate feel and the organic nature of like the comedy and the timing and the movement. But like this one felt more like set piece to set piece to set piece in that progression. Like, oh, we're at set piece 2, and then I know set piece 3 is going to be coming. And the movie's very kind of chopped up like that in the sense, like, because it's literally like, we're in this city, now we're going to get an excuse to go to this city, and now we're going to get an excuse to go to this city so we can fight this monster here, and this monster here, and it's very formulaic in that sense. So that just gave me some of the kind of, when I began to know that I'm watching a Marvel movie feeling. So that was it. But like, once I got into each set piece, and things started to happen and it became more intricate, it actually was really good, and each set piece is memorable, as opposed to Men in Black, which is so generic and kind of hollow that I forget half of where we went.
Yeah.
I remember each set piece. I remember what happened if Spider-Man's in the Netherlands or in, Germany or in France. I remember what each place was and memorable scenes, and not just action, but character moments and funny moments from each place. And it is, and in a weird way, this is like Euro Trip with a superhero focus instead of a sex focus. But there is a lot of funny kind of Euro Trip style gags about the places and the kids being in the places and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of good stuff with that. And I wish there was. I liked Zendaya and Peter's story because of the nature of this story. I wish there could have been even more of that a little bit, because I thought they did a good job in playing a very different Peter and MJ dynamic than what we saw from Kirsten Dunst and Tobey Maguire, because Zendaya's MJ is so different, and also different than Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone.
Does Tom Holland just have instant chemistry with anybody on a set?
I think he's very charming and can do that. Yes.
Really? It doesn't seem. It's probably not hard to have good banter with Robert Downey Jr., but Zendaya, Jake Gyllenhaal, Jacob Batalon. You put them up against anybody.
Yeah.
And there's instant,
and his with Zendaya is so good because it's so awkward. They're just. Yeah. It's so funny because they're just two geeks, trying to connect.
He has such a good little happy skip, too, when something happens. He does it 3 times this movie. Yeah, Yeah.
And so, like, I wish there was a little more of that, but I like where the story brings the two of them and that whole story, and I'd be really excited to see, especially, I can't say. Yeah.
Excuse me, no love for Vulture's daughter, Liz. How quickly Peter moved on.
Oh, yeah.
They don't address her at all.
No, I asked John Watts about that. He would love to bring her back. He wouldn't tell me whether she got snapped or not, but I was like, so did Liz get snapped out there? She moved to Oregon, right? And he said something along the lines of like, well, if she didn't, then she could actually play a character her age because she was 5 years older than everybody in the first movie. So now she could just play her proper age. Laura Harrier. We'll see. Maybe I wouldn't be surprised if we see her again because I imagine we're going to see Vulture again.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine we'll see Vulture again eventually.
Yeah.
And
Liz will come back and she'll be like, wait, Peter, you're still 16. I just bought a beer.
Oh, man. But,
You
yeah.
can't even buy cigarettes.
So, yeah, I mean, that'll be the thing. And the suits. I'll say the suits. I mean, there are 4 suits in this movie, but that's to sell toys. Like, there didn't need to be 4 suits in this movie.
Is there 4?
Yes. Yes, there's 4.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's 4.
Yeah, there's the Iron Spider, the classic, the stealth, and the new black and red suit.
And there's also the original sweatsuit Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Sweatshirt Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah. So, technically there's 5. So, I think, the suits are obviously merchandising gimmicks, and I don't think you needed 4 suits in this story, but, whatever.
If the hardcore Spider-Man fans who both like, especially the video game fans, there's a couple Easter eggs for them.
Oh, yeah, there's some great Easter eggs. Spider-Man game fans.
Not just
like,
the recent one, but then older Spider-Man
Yeah.
game too. I mean, we'll talk about this.
Yeah, we'll talk about
when we
spoilers
get to
and
the
Easter eggs and discussions. We're going to do a whole episode of spoiler discussions next week when you guys have all had a chance to
And then on July 7th, we'll also have a special Comic Book Nation episode. It's a Sunday, but we're not allowed to talk about spoilers from interviews yet. But on Sunday, we'll have Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal. Full interviews are going to be up in one podcast.
Listen, man, when I've been telling you that Brandon Davis has been out there all day cowboying for us, we're not kidding. Like, we got stuff for you. Like, yeah, we have a whole special episode talking with the head, Amy Pascal, head of Sony, Kevin Feige, head of Marvel Studios, and we're going to have plenty of juicy Spider-Man dish to talk about when we can drop full spoilers, so be on the lookout for that. All right, before we say too much and get too crazy, final thing I'll say is you absolutely have to sit through this movie all the way to the end, all the way to the end of the end.
Until they kick you out of the theater.
Yeah,
and they take
until the
your
lights come on. I mean, they were trying to turn the lights on us.
Really?
Yeah, oh my God, yeah. And we were like, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah, I walked out yesterday because we filmed fan reactions to it, and a couple people saw me walk out, and they followed me because I guess they figure it's over, and I was like, guys, there's another scene. You're gonna want to stay seated. And then they walked out, and they were like, "Oh my God, thank you for telling me that was so good." So,
this
they're
is
good.
like
good
this
scenes.
is top tier Marvel post credit scenes. These are not wasting your time. Go and check those out. Because I mean, if you want to know,
Just stop
yeah,
there.
stop there. Stop there. That's the end.
Yeah,
That's the end until the spoilers
they're good.
discussion.
They're
I
good.
almost went too far, but that's the end. So if you want to know more, be sure to check in our full Spider-Man Far From Home spoilers discussion coming up next week. All right, that'll do it for us here on Comic Book Nation. If you are just getting into this journey because you hopped on, you saw something like Spider-Man, be sure to just subscribe to us and make sure not to miss an episode. We post new episodes every Wednesday and Friday on Comicbook.com, where we have an RSS feed you can subscribe to, my mouth is gone, or you can subscribe on your favorite listening platform, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Google Playlist, or tell any Amazon Alexa device to play Comic Book Nation podcast, and it'll fire it up for you, courtesy of iHeartRadio. I learned that part, so you gotta really throw in.
Shout out to my Uber driver who promised to start listening.
Awesome.
Hey,
Uber driver. Yeah. If you guys leave us a great 5-star review on your listening platforms, let's just say iTunes. If you leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, we will send you some comic book swag when we read the reviews on the air. And we have new Comic Book Nation official t-shirts. If you didn't see me wearing one the last episode, they are badass. Make sure you get one with just a 5-star review. That's all you got to do. So leave one. If you want to talk to us about anything we've been talking about, ask any questions about things like Spider-Man with, spoiler free, hit us up at #Comic Book Nation, or you can reach us individually. You can find me at Kofi Outlaw.
You can hit me up at Matt Aguilar CB.
You can find me at Brandon Davis BD.
All right. Like I said, that'll do it for us. We hope you guys get out, have a good weekend, eventually see Spider-Man, and join us here for the full spoilers breakdown discussion. This is Comic Book Nation saying, thwip, thwip. See you later.
Deuce.